Hello. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And today we're here. Oh, there you go. The man of the hour. Fantastic. You're right just in time. You're right just in time. Yes, very, very on topic. Today, it was the solidarity prize, right? It was given to the indigenous Amazonians for their work in constant fight and what they do for us, right? Like even if we're near or beyond these lands. So today we're talking about building the Global Mutirão, and what that means in building the conference of people. Because we're here, we're often in these roles, we're told that this is a party-driven process. It's a conference of parties. But the solutions that we need to respond to the people. Governments for so long have been building paragraphs, documents without people at the front. And while they might look complete on paper, they fall on practice. And we're all suffering for that. In the back of that, we have spaces that exclude the voices from environmental defenders, Afro-descendants, indigenous people from the communities, and we want to change that. And we want to pose a question today, and we have a very amazing panel here of people that have been leading spaces and have been thinking about these questions for a very long time. So I will start by introducing our initiative, but there are many initiatives that are connected, but reflect on our initiative, so they're connected. I'm sorry, speaking in Spanish. So first, we proposed a few years ago People Global Climate Assembly, not only as a concept but as a challenge to this process to propose a permanent assembly in this space that is made of local, regional, and global spaces of self-determination and governance, right? So that we can create the solutions. So we propose today that, or for this, not today, for this COP, we started a process of building local assemblies and regional, but we have a global process that was fantastic and beyond anything that we could have imagined or built. We had the Cúpula de Pos that brought together thousands and thousands of people. So Rwanda is part of our local assembly. We also supported the caravan, the Mesoamerican caravan. We also have the African caravan. We have the African People Counterculture effort, and all of that as an effort, as a pilot to showcase that climate governance can be shared. We don't want only to have governments to share the mic, right? Like we want power shared. And that is the spirit of Global Mutirão. And for that, I want to give the space to our panelists to first introduce themselves, and then we'll go over some questions. So I'll start to my left. Can you hear me? Everyone? Sorry for like very, very loud place. My name is Heck. I'm working as a communication officer at Greenwich, and we hosted the local assembly last month at Egypt in Cairo. And it was like, actually, I have to go to school. Yeah, so yeah, you can continue the story.
Thank you very much. My name is Rahul Karanian. I am from the Gambia. I'm based in Africa. I had the is Action Network Africa. Yes.
My name is Jean. I live here in Belém. I'm part of Capital by Shadows, a coalition of the community organizations that promotes conference and access
with millions, billions of people. How do we make sure that it is millions and millions? I don't think it needs to be small. I think it needs to be more democratic. Maybe it doesn't matter the size of it, because everybody will have a voice. Right now, everybody's a little bit less because the rules are closed and so many barriers to access. So I want to see how this conversation goes. I'm curious.
Curiosity is so great. And in fact, we do have an article that's called Action for Climate Empowerment. It talks about, participation, talks about education, access to information, but the very rooms that hold that agreement are not practicing ACE. So we see, as you said, like rooms, like parties are more comfortable speaking within themselves without having any kind of witness to what they are doing. And that is dangerous because what they are negotiating is our future. So I think like we have seen a massive increase of people that are not embedded here, but also not at home, right? Like we have a system that is consistently failing people. So people are seeing COP as like, I need to be there, right? Like because if decisions are not being made here, I need to make my voice heard over there. We still don't see that those voices shape these spaces. But there have been examples of how to bring voices into these spaces or how to make assemblies and make processes that are centering people. So while you're, yes. So I want to go to you and ask, to reflect on the process of Cúpula de Povos, right? Like, what were the principles? How did you brought like all those people together, and how do you see the space change between Cúpula and Povos?
A cúpula começou a ser organizada com entrega do documento ao presidente Lula no Egito, quando ele tinha sido eleito, e aí começou o processo de articulação. E ela se espelha no processo da Rio 92 e depois na Rio +20, em 2012, quando nós organizamos uma grande cúpula dos povos no Rio de Janeiro. E ali também teve uma grande manifestação de rua. E, passados todos esses anos, houve a proposta de novamente buscar reunir as organizações, não só brasileiras. Então, um dos princípios da cúpula dos povos é o internacionalismo. Era reunir pessoas do mundo inteiro. A solidariedade era outro ciclo. A pluralidade, a diversidade, a pluralidade, a participação, todos esses eram princípios que foram sendo agregados a esse processo. E nós começamos com debates, reuniões, aprofundamento, né, das questões, até que o ano passado, no mês de agosto, houve uma grande plenária em Brasília, e nessa plenária se tirou um documento, e esse documento ele foi a base para as pessoas aderirem à cúpula. Então, quem queria aderir à cúpula dos povos precisava assinar esse documento, que era o documento de princípios. E depois, na sequência, se criaram grupos de trabalho, e a metodologia de debate foi construída, de um lado, a partir de 6 eixos temáticos, e na parte da manhã eram as plenárias dos eixos temáticos, em 2 dias, E à tarde eram os enlaces, por causa do internacionalismo. Então, à tarde você fazia os enlaces e que não eram, não eram iguais a atividades autogestionadas. Então, no nosso caso, nós apresentamos uma atividade sobre defensores de direitos humanos e aí tinha mais 4 atividades apresentadas. E as 4 sentaram, 5 sentaram e fizeram um único painel sobre o defensor de direitos humanos. Todo mundo trouxe essa experiência, Filipinas, África do Sul, Colômbia, México, Bolívia, Brasil e outros países. E ali houve um debate, uma análise, inclusive, dos contextos dos países e de possíveis estratégias de atuação no âmbito internacional. Então, essas são alguns exemplos de como a cúpula dos povos, assim, ela foi construída. Aí, ela tem um elemento importante que é uma mobilização de rua. E aí aconteceu que a gente conseguiu fazer uma barqueata, que é uma novidade, porque aqui tem um grande rio, e eu tenho muita adesão, né, a essa barqueata, e também a mobilização que aconteceu no dia 15 na rua, porque assim, nós não iríamos fazer um processo de debate sem mostrar nas ruas quais eram as questões que queríamos dizer para a sociedade, para o mundo, mas também para esse universo da COP30. Então, nesse sentido, para terminar, tudo que aconteceu lá foi traduzido num posicionamento de uma carta e foi entregue ao presidente da COP, a chefe brasileira, né, que estava representando aí o Brasil, ministros, 3 ministros, e agora há pouco foi entregue ao presidente Lula esse mesmo documento.
The summit started actually when a group of people handed a document to Lula in Egypt when Lula announced the COP mirrors the summit of the people that took place in Rio and in Rio plus 20. And after all years, organizations got together, not only Brazil, but it's an international movement. So people from all countries. Some of the principles that guide it, solidarity, diversity, plurality, participation, those are principles in this process. They started with events, dialogue. And then until last August, there was a big plenary in Brasilia when they come up with an outcome document for anyone that wants to join the summit. So if you want to join, you have to sign this document of principles. Then they just divided in working groups. There were six working groups, and also they had afternoon discussions on how to engage those thematic groups with different actors and make it international. And in that case, they proposed discussions on human rights defenders, and then all of those organizations from all over the world that proposed also to discuss human rights defenders. They got together to debate, to discuss protests and strategies, including international strategies to deal with the matter. And that's how they view, but also a component of street mobilization. That was very important for the summit. So here in Berlin, they had the Tiga because they had the paper, and they also had the 15 November March. So engaging society in the law with questions that they want to bring forward. And the letter that he has here was shared with the top presidencies, the head of the delegation of Brazil, 3 ministers, and today they shared it with President Lula.
Okay, thank you so much. And thanks for sharing with us. We're so thankful for what you were able to build. I think it allowed us to dream of what we could be, right? Like what we can reimagine this space. So thank you so much for the mobilization. That was amazing. Amazing. It was I've been to many talks and I feel that was the mobilization that was on the street was one of the most beautiful things that I have ever seen. So thank you. And with that, I want to move to hear about also your experiences in mobilization and bringing people together. I want you to tell me, John, about bringing together these folks and faciadas and bringing voices from the peripheries to the center. So if you can tell us a little bit about the process, the outcome, it would be great to hear from folks and faciadas.
I don't know if I can, but my mind is very slow. But I can
I'll buy you a beer after this.
I think some type of like one thing about this before we speak the process, I think the diversity can make a comprehensive solution. Sometimes we hear that we are not strengthening the official form, but when we bring when we try to bring the issues that matter most to us, this is the message that makes. This is the message. How our riders, which have the names, which will ride the forest and people are related to the global. The official process created as the simple domestic events. So if there is no sufficiently comprehensive identity, we, we will don't have solution to that. You will be between all problems to neighboring cities, neighboring states, and countries, and neighboring countries.
We're getting.
The copy by shadows, they can, when I was talking with a friend after copy 26 and quando aí volta você tem alguns beneficiários viu? Não. De português. Desculpa, gente. A novidade baixada começou com o voto da COP26, na volta, na conversa com pessoas que votaram da COP26, e a gente estava defendendo um rio local, uma coisa local, e as meninas falavam que a gente era ativista climática, e a gente falava que não, que a gente era agente cultural, estava falando de memória de um rio. E eles falavam que era fundamental, quando um território é tratado diferente do outro, quando cortam mais árvores sem consultar, isso é fundamental e foi se interessando. Mas quando ela falou sobre que era uma COP, elas falaram assim, lá é muito difícil chegar numa COP oficial, as pessoas têm que captar dinheiro, quando chegam lá, tem que conseguir uma credencial, quando elas chegam lá, não tem muita gente não tem muito lugar para falar, quando elas falam, não tem muita gente para ouvir. Então a gente ficava assim, por que a gente quer se esforçar tanto para estar numa COP oficial? Vamos fazer nossa própria COP. E aí começa a construir a COP das baixadas, nesse lugar da juventude, acho que tudo é possível, né? E começamos a fazer uma conferência de educação climática, mas que depois se tornou um instrumento grande de volta-se aqui em Berlim. E aí, com a chegada da COP30, né, a COP sendo anunciada em Belém, eu acho que a COP30 se tornou também um grande instrumento para que tanto organizações do Brasil quanto internacionais não chegassem aqui de uma maneira como se não tivesse gente que pudesse entender o que é esse espaço internacional. E acho que
We said that both the Machado started, we start thinking about that after COP26, and we start talking to people that went to Glasgow. And at the time, he was defending a local river. And people started calling him a climate activist. He never saw himself as a climate activist. For him, he was a cultural activist because he was defending the role of the river in cultural. My interpretation very good. And then people started slavering about environmental racism. He got very curious, and he's like, "What is this about?" And then he was like, "Oh my God, this is something," you know. And then he saw himself like, "Oh, I want to learn more." And then as he was learning about, he's like, "What is this space that is so difficult for people to get in, so unreachable? Why do we want to go there if no one is going to hear?" So then he started building these competence washadas as a youth initiative. And you know, as a said, youth think that everything is possible. And then it became an instrument of policy in the land. And then when the land was formally selected as the city to host COP30, then the competence washada became this place where people already knew what COP was about, so they were more prepared to receive the COP engaging in the process.
Complementing, I know that not everyone needs to be here, but it's about your life too, about your private communication. Only pressure and discussion that those have to we will be able to in the end, I believe much more in this people.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And I think you can only achieve it if you envision it and think out of it, right? I applaud that. And I think yes, I think it's very important that the process doesn't start and doesn't end here. So while we don't need the whole world here, we do need these diverse perspectives that we were saying in the beginning. And what we don't want, right, is a cult that is hermetic to the outside. We don't want to see military people keeping local folks out of the club that is taking place in their lands, right? Like that is not what a club should be. Like the local people shouldn't be the ones outside. So I think building the capacity of people that can come to this, like that local people where club is hosted, that local people can enter to this space and participate, they can effectively influence is very important. So thank you so much for bringing the periphery to the center, right? I think like there's a multiplicity of efforts, but we need them all, right? So, Babacar, I know that you were working you were involved in the Africa Climate Summit declaration in bringing so many folks from the continent to come together to a people's assembly and find ways to a declaration. How is that process being built and the outcome?
All right, so thank you very much. First and foremost, I'd like to apologize for coming late because I was definitely helping with the question and not one, but and again also, I wasn't aware of this today. So you so many things. Again, yes, we held African Climate Summit in Addis Ababa because what we felt was tickets to Addis Ababa was like very, very expensive. Hotels were expensive, and then every other thing was expensive for people to fly in and also witness the same thing. So, in African Climate Summit, there were two segments. There was a segment of the climate week that is the responsibility of the it's a UNFCCC process that only part doing nothing. And also the climate summit, we was open to the people for them to engage and then talk about issues that we are having. For us as civil society in Africa, we also felt it was important for us to mobilize and bring them under one umbrella of having one voice. And that is the voice of person, the voice of the youth, the voice of the indigenous people, the voice of the trade union, the voice of civil society, and also the voice of religious people who could not have badges, who could not have accreditation to attend this formal event. The reason why we have the militarization of COP this time is because the indigenous people who own this process, who by claim own the process, are not giving the right to enter. Because we are all here so-called parties talking about representing them, but they're the one feeling the heat, they're the one feeling the waterway, they're the one feeling the hurricanes, they're the one feeling the floodings. So if we deny them the access of coming in, then we are not doing justice to them. So for us, that is why we always want to bring this mobilization parallel to this activity. So that people who cannot have accreditation to join the bigger movement, people who cannot have accreditation to join the activities for them to happen, will now have a space to join. For example, in the People's Summit, in the People's Night, we gathered over 50,000 people in the street of Belém the other side. You don't need accreditation to come. You don't need right to come. You just have to come and then show your flag, show your tent, and then that was it. And your message was sent. So this alternative to this program are very important. But I would also appeal that we don't do them within these systems when we are in. Like for example, activities like COP can work. But like the people system, how we do it could be 3 days before the COP. So that people have an understanding of this before we even come to COP. But if we do it parallel, for example, I'm interested as a campaigner as I am, could not go to 1 day of the people summit. But I attended the boat flotilla. It was important to me, but again, I have time to attend others. So there is also imbalance. But if I have data, I would have also inspired them of what we did in Addis Ababa. And also in Ethiopia, we were completely denied access. And even civil society, we were denied access of joining the movement. But we did what we have no alternative. We went to a place, a hotel, we paid, we help people mobilize civil society, and then we had the best people summit, which was even more than the one that they organized at government. So I think for me, my reflection to this is if we are organizing this in the future, let's also organize it in a way that it will be before or a few days before the COP. And that will also help us, rationalize and mobilize very well.
Thank you, thank you. And I think that we are in a process of building, like we're in a process of building and figuring out a way in a way that is not built for us, right? We have to go step by step into how do we, wow, we have uh we have competition, but I can be loud. So I think yes, thank you. And I will go after Ramna tells us about her story. I will pose the question that you're thinking about it. It's a complex question, right? It's about how do we institutionalize or not the participatory space? How do we make sure that it is linked, but at the same way that it has the self-determination and power that it has by being on its own? So while people are thinking, you'll have your time to think while they're saying. Can you tell us about your story on how you brought together an assembly in Egypt where these spaces are not often welcome or promoted within an authoritarian state? So if you tell us a little bit about more of how was that, what kind of strategies did you use?
Actually, they have a housing on the smart. I usually do sometimes, but the story begins because in Greenish is an NGO in Egypt that works on education, especially private education for people in different levels, in different education, higher education, technical education, even in different ages, is using children. It starts with we have like a community have been like for more than like 5 years. One of the part is research that we have been like in other universities in Egypt and different governments. We are teaching and educating students more about climate, different aspects from climate, change management, and then putting it the local context for each of them. Because actually, in my belief, and I think all of us have the same belief, people and especially if they call enough, they have all tools, they have everything. But I think people in rules need to know this. They are really proud enough. Just need to space and appreciate, and they already have the capacity to do this. So when we started like getting this assembly is one of the activities people are doing, that they are just thinking in their own families, their own future, how they can build it, how they can work on it. And the important thing is how to do people around the thinking, the daily works, you are teaching them. Because actually, this is what happened first. At first, for me, it was not clear, and I got shocked because actually, people are talking in the same language of language in social notes. And when I got to Egypt, and when I got to the local people in the streets, local people about hope, even just one in Egypt, they don't know about hope. I don't, let's just don't do it to know. So I think what happened is we just get on group, we just need to know more about what's going on, what do you learn, how to identify, and I didn't even go through the complex sentence or complex words. The man who use very great sentence, but it actually was how you are thinking, it's concerned how what you need to do and what's wrong in this because not to make all the people in the same room and the same with the same room, not to make us them.
So whomever wants to take the next question.
Okay, for me, I think thinking about it also, you need to what we call movement building. Because you see, in movement building, it's where the strategy is, to ensure that movement building, the strategy is to ensure that people get into the movement in a way that is fair to them. And then to say, for instance, if in the movement building, you need to be all on the same page in driving this process. Again, people have different ways of dealing with every situation. And of those situations, as you mentioned rightly, in this case, for example, these are party graded. It means the values that we have as a privilege. And they can remove it from us. They can say, we're stopping you from doing this thing. And we've seen it and have seen it again in Bonn. When we speak in solidarity with Palestine using the word see, they ask us not to use it, and that is telling you how dictatorial these places are. The people of Palestine could not be allowed in this building for them to stand there. They have to go outside. So it is the solidarity of conflict, solidarity of humanity that can bring us together as people in order to ensure. Look at Amazon. Frustrated. That is why they entered here. Because it's their process. They're the ones sleeping in the forest, in the land. So why would you deny them education? So now what we need to do as a solution is to find an alternative. And that alternative, if we are really true into these people who are in genocide, these people who are in calamities, humanitarian crisis, it's really need to stand for them. And standing for them really means uniting our efforts as a movement to put out those that are participating.
Someone else that wants to answer how the question was how do we think that we need to either institutionalize or not institutionalize these process? How do we make sure that it's linked, but then how else do we make sure that they retain their self-determination and the power that they have by being, sovereign states?
Yo pienso mucho acerca de eso, que es una de las cosas que más me causan dudas, que es interesante estar en un espacio como esto, como estaba en Egipto, mi primera copia, yo prometí a mí mismo que nunca volvería a una copia oficial, porque era todo que las activistas hablaban, ese espacio difícil, todo, pero nadie dejó de estar en ese espacio, los empresarios, los lobbies, petroleros, y también organizaciones internacionales que captan mucho dinero, o sea, cerca de mucho financiamiento, de una cosa mucho económica, eso mismo para que no es, y no tercero sector mismo, y la filantropía, también la desigualdad, mismo en eso, mismo las personas buenas. Y entonces, esto me, me hizo repensar que sí, en verdad hay mucha precariedad en nuestros pueblos y precisamos estar allá también. Entonces eso me hizo volver y involucrar también en lo que existe en la forma formal de mi agricultura, que es la subsistence, o sea, estar acompañando las negociaciones a través de conflictos, principalmente de Yungo, en los grupos de trabajo, pero eso para mí no era lo que es suficiente, porque eh, una, el poder para mí, mi experiencia, tanto en mi organización que tu Hub, es que el poder se dialoga con el poder. Mi organización, que es un centro cultural acá en Belén, cuando creamos, nosotros mostramos para los gobernantes, ellos no escucharon nada, pero cuando se inauguró, que fue muy así, muy famoso, con famoso, ellos estaban en la adoración. Entonces, solo cuando no precisamos que ellos nos escuchan. O sea, solo escucha cuando hay 70.000 personas en las calles. O sea, cuando no había las 70.000 personas no era importante. Entonces, este entendimiento que necesitamos siempre nos articular juntos para después de abordar este entendimiento. Y porque si nosotros ocupamos este lugar solo, solicitos y intentamos algo, no escucharán, no escucharán. Entonces, cualquier cosa que tentamos acá nos colocará al final de la fila, al final de todo. O sea, para que yo o otro joven sea negociador, precisaría estudiar relaciones internacionales. Entonces, 20 años después, tal vez para aprender, para estar, para la situación, digamos, para estar en un programa que está en el gobierno, para después hacer alguna cosa. Hasta 20 años, ya mi territorio ya se cambió, entonces no da para esperar. La emergencia, hay otras emergencias que están aconteciendo al mismo tiempo y no podemos esperar por la buena voluntad de la multilateralismo. O sea, ese es el momento.
So he was talking that he went to Egypt for the first time, and after he went there, he promised that he would never go back. Um, but then he started to think that these spaces are co-opted by businesses and other private interests. And then he's like, but we also have to be there. And started to go to different constituencies, Jongo, and others, but that wasn't sufficient. He understood that power to power, and that they started doing all this process, but they only started to hear when there was many people involved. Like when there's no 70,000 people on the street, they don't listen. So he understood that articulating together um, is important to occupy the space. And if we only occupy the space as constituency, they will not hear us. Everything that we try here will put us at the end of the line. And he was saying that if you have another youth like him that wants to be a negotiator, that means that he will have to go and study international relationships, and that could take up to 20 years. And in 20 years, the territory is gone, and there's so many emergencies that we don't have time to wait. We don't have time to wait, and nor to believe in the kindness of multilateralism. So I'll go to you. So think about um, not only so this space is failing. So how do we transform it, and how do we integrate these spaces or not integrate it? Yeah.
Primero que es importante tener espacio de redacción y de construcción del debate político, de construir las posiciones de afuera para adentro. Y bueno, toda la cúpula de los pueblos se dio con muchas comunicaciones en este espacio. Y desde meses atrás se realizaron reuniones en Brasilia, en otros espacios, cobrando cómo sería la participación de la sociedad civil. Entonces, en ese sentido, podría decir que los espacios se comunicaron el tiempo todo. Mas el problema es la desigualdad de poder. Y por eso precisamos ir en la calle para decir también tenemos poder. Porque en las delegaciones la mayoría son empresarios, son las grandes corporaciones de todo más. Entonces, por eso tenía que ir para las calles. Y creo que no vamos a institucionalizar el espacio de cúpula de los pueblos. Vamos ahora a hacer una evaluación sobre cómo mantener estrategias de articulación de temas, gestiones, frente principalmente al fascismo, frente al avance de la extrema derecha y cómo mantenemos un debate sobre democracia no sentido de democracia participativa y no una democracia meramente formal, y cómo lo hacemos para proteger o defender los países que son atacados de guerra y otras acciones del imperialismo, principalmente de los Estados Unidos. Esas cuestiones permearon el debate y creo que vamos en la evaluación a hacer algún tipo de construcción estratégica sobre el futuro. Mas es muy importante que en las otras COPes o en los otros procesos siempre se construyan espacios de diálogos autónomos para después reverberar dentro de los espacios de diálogo.
Okay, so what he was communicating to us is that what is most important is that the spaces are autonomous, or I'm not sure if that's the word. Okay. I think it's self-determined. Yeah, that's the right word. And there were communications with this space, and there were many dialogues into like from Brasilia to others. So what will be the role of civil society here? What will be the spaces that they will have? But the difference is the power, and that's why civil society needed to take the space. Because here you have a lot of corporates that have money and the money is their power, but our power is on the street. Um, and he's saying that we cannot institutionalize this space. We need to make sure that we maintain strategies of articulation of topics and debates within this space, but also that we can advance topics of debates against fascism, the extreme right, and democracy. How do we make sure that we protect and defend the countries that are attacked by wars and others? And this permeated the debate. And right now they're going to gather and develop a strategy so that in other talks we always construct a space, a space of spaces that are self-determined. And I think, we have to dance the Macarena. So
Excuse my Macarena.
the answer might be Macarena. So I'm gonna end the. I know that there are people that have a engagements after, so I want to maybe we give like you have 30 seconds to have ending. And Anna, thank you so much for supporting us with translation. Can you also give us some feedback that you would want to reflect so we can hear?
In 30 seconds, because I really have to go. But first, I think there is so much to learn from this experience. Because anything that made you stop different is like the pop was not only the blizzard, the pop was the entire city. And when we engage the entire city, it's so powerful. And it shouldn't be only during pop. It should be always like that. We cannot just mobilize when we need. When the solidarity that is how long it took for you to mobilize the summit of the people of the capital Baixada. It takes time. So you cannot, it needs to be around the clock. If I had a dream, like we should build a global constituency, a global constituency of people standing up for the right to a health and sustainable environment. But at the same time, I have one word is like let's keep, which is not a word, let's keep being creative. Let's not lose the capacity that we have of dreaming. Because if we just think of what's possible, that is never going to take us further. And I think we are finding our voice. And Belen is giving a lesson of how the voice can come in so many different shapes and forms. So there is a lot to learn from here, and I very much look forward to learning from the feedback of this exercise, and hoping that whatever we know, we learn when the next talk is, we can already start thinking, what else can we do to push the boundaries? Because I think Belen pushed some boundaries, and that has been great. And thank you to all of you for doing that.
Queria dizer que a crise climática, a emergência climática realmente é grave, mas nós nos ouvimos nesses dias e a reflexão e a mobilização, a festa, tudo o que aconteceu faz com que a gente possa acreditar que a solução vem do povo. E o Cúpula dos Povos disse assim, nós somos a solução. Então, a gente pode enfrentar a crise e a crise ela tem uma resposta. A resposta são os povos que constroem a solução nos territórios. Muito obrigado.
The climate emergency is very urgent. It's very serious. So all the party, all the dialogues, all this life that happened in the land show that what the city of the people said is wrong, and that we are people are the solution. That's pretty much what it is.
Eso, eh, yo creo que mismo que ni todos pueden estar en este espacio, eh, y que essas pessoas que estão acá como yo estão haciendo cosas importantes de espacio social, pero pienso que todos pueden territorializar un poquito, hacer una cosa en sus propios territorios. Y en Amazonia, lo que nosotros podemos enseñar para las otras personas es una cultura de cuidar de los otros. Y creo que nuestra cultura, esa cultura de respetar el tiempo de la floresta, el tiempo de trabajo, porque mismo en las ciudades amazónicas nosotros no trabajamos para se tornar millonario. Eso es una cosa que estamos enfrentando con una contranarrativa del sudeste del país, porque en la Amazonia nosotros queremos siempre una sustentabilidad.
Um, so we have to think that every territory can do something by bringing it back to territory. Like, for example, in the Amazon, we can bring a culture of care, the culture of care, of respecting the time of the forest, and making sure that we are. Sorry, but yeah, so that we respect that and that we bring that with us to these places.
So for me, it's just that second of solidarity. Like we need to have solidarity in our head so we can the people of the Amazonia, the people who are strong, they work with fight. Today you can observe that the people of Sudan are not here. And we need to remember them that they are in genocide also happening in the country. We believe that as outsiders. You know, the people of Palestine from the way that they support the receiving the occupation. We need to step in the solidarity. Amazonians can have access to this. We need to stand in solidarity with people that will hear me. And this movement that you're talking about, institutionalized, not institutionalized, solidarity is the power.
Actually, I don't have anything can be added afterwards, but as a people, and this is what I really experience, I got a lot of doing that, but it's super close to people. My only invitation is, yes, we need to keep this kind of people. But this is an invitation for the civil society people, civil society workers, servants, everyone here is working closer to people to make sure we are listening to the real people. No problem here, and like we are part of the purpose, and we should take it on church, and we just going nothing because this is the purpose and we don't know how to do this. As being a civil society and being part of this and being part of people, we need to keep pushing, we need to keep listening to them, and we need to make sure we are listening to them, work for them. Because I think for me, and I have discussion with this whole English for people, we need a civil society worker, a Photoshop. It's a 24-hour job with passion. You are not listening to people standing with them, reality with them, people from Palestine, Sudan, everywhere, Amazonia. I think what all of us are doing, we have like a need. So keep pushing and just keep listening to the real people, their needs and what they want. Keep pushing outside the rules. Listen to us.
Thank you. Thank you. What a wonderful way to end. So thank you all guys for coming. And we keep building on this conference of people and that respond to our needs. So thanks so much.